But Dumas said something about Klay Thompson yesterday and Jordan Poole. And Jordan Poole is not happy about not starting. And obviously Klay Thompson at that two-guard spot was probably in the way. When did Steve Kerr quote from that season when Klay Thompson returned? And Anthony Slater asked Steve Kerr, what's the deal when Klay comes back? Will he come off the bench or will he start? And Steve Kerr said, it's not even a question. He is starting. And from that moment on, I thought it was a dead issue because Steve Kerr came out there and said it, saying, you know what? It's not. There's no question. We're going to nip that in the bud. Klay will start. If Steve Kerr didn't say it, what if Kerr had eased Klay back into the lineup and brought him off the bench? I wonder if it changes the dynamic of everything with the Golden State Warriors. Now we're revisiting something that happened 2 years ago, essentially, but because all the conversation about Klay coming off the bench and Jordan Poole wanting to start, what if Kerr didn't say that to Anthony Slater back in December of 2021? What if he came back and said, you know what, we're going to ease Klay back into the lineup? I thought once he said Klay's a starter from here on out, that was it. It was done.
Yeah, I feel like that too. What are you talking about? It was done in terms of removing Klay from the starting lineup. Yeah, you're probably right about that. But, let's play this out. Psychologically and physically, I'm sure that they had a variety of reasons why they wanted to stick with that particular game plan. Klay hadn't come off the bench since what? His rookie year? Bonte? Rookie year?
Rookie year, yep.
Yeah, so there's the, I'm accustomed to doing X, Y, and Z. There's the mental hurdle of trying to get over, from obviously the injuries and everything like that. The familiarity of being able to acquiesce alongside a guy that you've played with for forever. You're trying to maximize your money on Klay Thompson at that point. Trying to salvage his career, obviously. Help your team win, obviously. But you want the best out of that guy. So to get the best out of him, you want him to be in his most comfortable spot. So it makes a lot of sense. It does. It makes a lot of sense. Now, I think it's fair to critique, moving on after a couple of weeks, months, whatever, would you reconsider that idea?
Right.
That's fair, I think, to think about out loud.
And so I'm going to play two cuts here. First, the Kerr cut from 2020 and then, or 2021. Okay, all right. Let's play Dumas then. Dumas talked about the rise of Poole threatening Klay Thompson.
The idea of Jordan Poole, before he went into the postseason slump, helped Steph Curry. And I think Steph realizes that Jordan Poole, the emergence of Jordan Poole on some levels threatens Klay Thompson from a pure basketball standpoint. So you got to keep all that stuff in mind because these are these people's jobs, their livelihoods, how they put food on their plate, egos. So I can see why it kind of went left.
So that threat right there, there's some validity to that.
I think so.
But again, when Kerr comes out and says Klay's starting, there's no question. Thought right then and there. You have that one. Here's what Steve Kerr said in December of 2021 during the championship season about Klay's return.
When you look at lineups, you have to look at all five guys. And when Klay was out earlier, we were starting big. We had Draymond in the starting lineup as the four. And so we had, Wiggs, Draymond, Loon on the front line. That's a pretty big front line. Now we're starting Gary Payton because our defense has suffered over the last few weeks. So, if you want to start Steph and Gary Payton in the backcourt, which we're doing, you want to throw Jordan out there. That's a tiny perimeter group. And going against an offensive rebounding team like Minnesota, you got to put somebody on Jared Vanderbilt, who's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. Those are the decisions you got to make. And so while Jordan was definitely more in a groove as a starter, this is the role we need him in right now. And we've got to do everything we can to help him get more comfortable.
That was the year that they won it all.
Yeah, won it all. It's
His
another
logic's
quote.
pretty sound. I mean, when you listen to the reasoning, I connect the dots, don't you?
Yeah, no doubt. I do too.
So let me ask you, do you have maybe not revisionist history, not buyer's remorse? I don't know what the term would be. Do you think maybe they set it in stone when they didn't need to regarding Klay Thompson?
Well, I just think that set the tone.
I see what you're saying.
Mentally, it set the tone for everybody. Now, as Steve Kerr said, you know what? We're going to ease Klay back into the lineup, which I thought they would do when he came back after missing 2 straight seasons.
Meaning off the bench.
Off the bench.
Okay.
easing him back into the lineup, playing him 16, 20 minutes. Obviously, he wasn't playing back-to-backs, and Jordan Poole's still on that groove, right? If he didn't do that, if he had elected to bring Klay off the bench, who knows where the hell the Warriors would be right now? Who knows what would be happening?
As in they would be
As
better
in
or
Jordan
worse?
Poole would be here? Would he not be here? Would Klay have already accepted that bench role that a lot of people were clamoring for last season?
I do think on some level I underestimated, the years leading up to the injury and then obviously what he's done since the injury. I think I underestimated his emotional fragility, which is totally fair. Like I would be way more of a wreck than where he was at. But I'm not even saying he's a wreck. I'm just saying, like, I do think that in my mind, he was more robotic as a player or as a person, meaning things didn't faze him. I actually think things do faze him. And I actually it makes him the vulnerability makes him, to me, be more endearing and more lovable. But I think we've underrated his sensitivity to things like being a starter, to things like being considered one of the top 75 players of all time, for people diminishing his impact on a championship team. I do think those things bother him. Mm-hmm. Don't you?
Yep, absolutely. No doubt.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that
it's not.
I think it actually, to me, makes him. I view him in a better light, and I've probably been one of his biggest critics.
Yeah, no, trust me.
At
he
least
knows.
at this station.
He knows. He knows.
Oh, trust me, I'm
know.
aware he knows.
all
But he
know.
knows I love him.
They all know. Now, I don't know if he knows that. I don't know if he knows
All right,
that.
Klay, if you're out there, I love you, dog.
Oh, man. Larry Harris, he was on with Willard and Dibbs the other day, and Larry Harris, assistant GM with the Golden State
Great
Warriors,
hair.
has been great hair. He's been running the draft for many, many years. Larry is a great dude. Great dude. Here's what he said about the egos. Everybody's talking about egos with Chris Paul now here, with Draymond's ego. Here's what Larry Harris had to say about that.
I think the biggest thing is it comes back to our core. I really believe that all, our three Hall of Famers, along with Kevon Looney, they're past the stats and all the accolades. It's all about winning. I mean, if you saw our last championship, it was probably the hardest one to get, and I think it was the most emotional. So, acquiring somebody like Chris, it really was not a hard task for our stars when we, reached out to them and to kind of get their input into the situation with Chris, that they're all about winning. So I don't think, though each great player has an ego, I think ours are all in check and really focused on one thing, which is winning.
Okay, I want to interrupt there. He says that they want to win, but I think one of the things, because a lot of people say they want to win, and a lot of times what I realize is that, and I don't think this is a bad thing, it's just you have to acknowledge it. The guys with ego, that's what got them where they are, and they think in their mind, we win because I'm at my best and when I'm scoring or when I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And that's part of what makes these guys so great and so superhuman. But I also think it's part of the limiting factor, which is very difficult to manage. It's like, so for example, Klay Thompson, right? Hey, Klay, we think it's best to win, and you'd take a backseat role. Well, in his mind, he's saying, no, I'm one of the top players of all time. And I think the best way to win is with me as a frontline player taking, shots as they come and playing this particular position and these particular minutes. That's what I think gives us our best chance to win.
Right.
So I do think at times those things don't line up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No
and
doubt.
they do want to win. I'm not saying they don't want to, because I think that's dumb. It's clear they all want to
doing
win.
it their way.
Exactly.
They believe
You said
we
it
can
perfectly.
win. They can win doing it their way.
I agree with that.
And my way is I need to take 20 shots a game. I need to bomb from three. I need to be the second option. That's my way. That's how I think we get to win. And Klay forced it early last season. Now he took a step back midway through, and he got hot in the month of January, February, or March. But players do believe that if I play this way, we're going to win. Egos.
Yes.
It's all good.